What is going on, everybody? He is I'm him, is your main man, Chi. And this right here is So In The Meantime. It's been a minute since I've done this. There is not a hidden, but there is a lost episode that is coming out later on this week. You know, just throwing that out there that you are going to get a lost one. It was recorded a couple weeks ago, and I just haven't had the time to actually put it out. So it will be out this week along with this episode as well. This episode right here is broken into multiple parts. And I say that because there's a possibility that there will be a part 2 and a part 3 to this. I do know for sure that there's going to be 2 parts, but the third part, I'm working on that one. I got to see about my cousins to see what's up with them. Matter of fact, I might even get my brother to tag along in this conversation as well, because it's a lot of shit that we need to talk about. Okay. First things first, I want to do my check-in. How am I doing on the business side, personal, and my mental health fitness? On the business side, I want to say I'm about a 6.5 or 7. I say that because, as you see that we are in the name of this place that we're in now is officially known as the Pod Hub. So we're here. This is a different set, as you can tell. It's a different look to this Pod Hub. We have the other side, which is where you normally see Royal Club being shot at. Not to say that we're not going to shoot Royal Club over there, or I'm not going to shoot So In The Meantime over there. But, shout out to my guy, my videographer, my photographer, the man that just follows me everywhere. We were setting something up for another pod that my mentor is doing. And I happened to be over in this section, and I turned the light on, and he instantly was like, "Chi, you want to shoot over here?" And I was like, we could try it. We could try it. And I seen it, and once I looked at it, I kind of just fell in love with this look. I said, this is something that, we both have seen pods that look similar to this, with this type of look going, debate style, so that's what we did, so with the podcast, with everything going, I'm slowly making some changes, some moves. There is going to be an announcement that I'm leaning more towards the end of the year to announce. Just want to let y'all know about that. There will be some changes happening and some new stuff coming along the way. The job scene is going, okay. I have some opportunities that are presenting itself. So hopefully, fingers crossed, things will work out for me. Personally, personal is a little shaky right now. We'll say I'm about like a 5. But that's just because of a lot of stuff that's been going on. I had therapy last Wednesday, and I realized a lot within that therapy session. And, I remember when I did my check-in episode where I was outside, and I told y'all that I would be taking y'all on this journey with me through this thing called life, and being very transparent and very open with you guys. And one thing that I realized that through my therapy session, I've always had this thing with abandonment. I suffer from that. And then it's like a 1-2 punch. So it's having those abandonment issues. And then on top of that, the me feeling like I'm not good enough. So when you put these two elements in one jar, if you want to say, it serves up to be a very brutal mental battle that one deals with. And me and my therapist decided that we're going to take on this road. We're going to explore more into this. Why these issues keep coming, what it stems from. I know where it stems from is two things or two people that have caused these issues to really arise and be kind of the focal point of why I feel the way I feel. But I will be taking y'all on that journey. Y'all will not be obviously following me into my therapy sessions, but I will be letting y'all know little things that I find out, little gems here and there that I know. And it goes into with my mental fitness is still at that 5 as well. Just because of everything that I just said and just, dealing with the strains of life, It was very interesting because, school started back up. Shout out to all my Buff State friends that are still there. It's very interesting because I started to really, really miss it. I'm like, damn, I remember I told people, because people would ask me well, how are you going to feel when that you're not in school anymore? And I said, well, ask me when school comes back around. And it's here. And I find myself missing it, I find myself missing being around my peers, the people that are kind of have the same vision and, and the same like-mindedness and being around just a lot of creators, content creators and producers and directors and all types, even designers, things like that. It's just being around it for a good portion of the day is something that that I'm missing, but I'm slowly getting around there. I've been being in contact with a lot of people that I, keep in contact with. I know one particular person is going to probably watch this video and say, I text you all the time, but you text me memes, Moises. Okay? You text me memes. All right? And we are, we're trying to get you back here. We are trying to get you back to Buffalo. So, nah. So that's that. That's how I'm doing within that realm of my mental or my check-in. So that was my check-in. Let's get into why we are here. I told my videographer 45 minutes I want to take to do this episode. Right now I am at 36 minutes. So he keeps waving at me it don't matter. But as you guys are all aware, or in the words of my former co-host from Views from the Two, or if you don't care, news broke out this last week in the world of sports, particularly in the NBA, with the Boston Celtics head coach Ime Udoka. Now, Wednesday night, roughly around maybe 10:30, I happen to be at home looking at my phone and I see that on Twitter that ESPN NBA insider, the one, the only Adrian Wojnarowski, tweeted the following. ESPN sources: Boston Celtics coach Ime Udoka is facing possible disciplinary actions, including a significant suspension for unspecific, I know I said that word wrong, sue me, violation of organizational guidelines. Discussions are ongoing within the Celtics on the final determination. Now, when I seen this, I kind of didn't pay it any mind. I was like, all right, whatever. Like, y'all know me. I'm Lakers through and through. So it's up the Celtics to the grave. But then I woke up the next day and I started seeing that a lot of people were coming out, like Twitter reporters. That's what I refer to them as. Twitter reporters started reporting like, oh, Ime, cheated on Nia Long, his longtime girlfriend, fiance. They have a kid together. Oh, he cheated on Nia Long. Well, who could he have cheated on her with? And then they started diving in and they started plastering one particular person, saying like, oh, this had to be her. This had to be her. My cousins in the group chat, Adrian and Russ, the ones that were on the for the Culture podcast, y'all already know who those are. They came, they text me, because we're in a group chat. They started asking, we started talking about it. Like, oh, my cousin Adrian, to whom I love, that's my tourist twin right there. She was just, emphasizing that, she felt bad for Nia Long, things like that. And I made a statement that I'm going to get into later on about that situation. But it started to get really heavy. The conversation to get really intense because we were just, it's two different perspectives. Because me and my cousin Russ are looking at this situation from one lens and the news side of things. And she's looking at it from another side because she is a journalist. She works for a news down in Atlanta. So she's looking at it from that perspective. And we're like, we look at it like, why would Woj do this? Why would he report something and then not really give all the details and everything? And then as Thursday came around, the sports channels, the ESPN, the FS1s, FS1 Undisputed. I don't know if Colin Cowherd spoke about it. He might have, but it might have been like a little small thing. Brother from Another, that's on Peacock. All of them was talking about it. There happened to be one show, though, that I was paying more attention to than any other show. That was ESPN. Why would you ask? For one person and one person only. Y'all know him. He's my favorite person in the whole world, and I say that exaggerating. Stephen A. Smith. Now, when Stephen A. Smith was talking, and he was bringing it up, he was saying a lot of things, and he left what I like to call breadcrumbs.
Number one, this is a stupid position for him to find himself in. There's no way around it. I'm a huge fan of his. There's no excuse for him to find himself in this position. Now, all we know definitively, according to the reports, is that he had a consensual relationship with a woman and that it is against organizational policy. That's all we know. Covering the NBA for as long as I have, you will hear a multitude of details that would be irresponsible for me to report at this particular moment in time because that hasn't been reported. And according to our own policies here at ESPN, we have an obligation to follow that. And when more additional information comes out, just know that I already know what that information is, okay? And so there's more layers to this that I'm not about to get into. If they do fire him, if he's in violation of their organizational policy, which clearly he is, and they made that decision, he doesn't have a leg to stand on. He doesn't, because the organizational policy was in place. And trust me when I tell you, when the details that are going to come out, he violated that policy. What I will say is this, and this is a message to the Boston Celtics. I got a problem with you as an organization right now. Because if you're not going to fire him, why the hell do we even know about this story? Nobody's bringing that up. I'm going to bring it up. What the hell are you telling us for? I've been covering the NBA for over a quarter century. And I'm trying to tell you right now, I can't count the amount of fraternization, or dare I say more, that goes on in practically every damn organization within the National Basketball Association, the NFL, Major League Baseball, the list goes on and on. People get together, they working together. That stuff happens all the time.
So Stephen A. Smith, the one person in the basketball world that I actually do pay attention to and listen to, along with a few other people, but as a sports reporter, as a beat writer for the NBA, as he said, for a quarter of a century, he's someone that I pay close attention to. And he was saying a lot of stuff in there that really caught my attention. Like I said, he was saying he was leaving breadcrumbs. And one of the things, as you heard, is the problem or the news that is out there is that Ime had, and I want to emphasize this when I say this, a consensual, intimate relationship with someone within the Celtics organization, which is a violation of their code of conduct. We've all been in workplaces where they frown upon that. They frown upon it, okay? But it was him saying like, well, when all the news comes out, just know, I know it all. I know all the details. So if you know all the details, and this is something that I'm gonna keep echoing on this episode, if you know the details, why not report on it? Why is it that you're not being the one to say it? Is it because you want to let Woj take the credit for it? Is it because you want, the other reporters like Sham and Marcus Spears and all them to take credit for this? Because you don't want to? What's so egregious? What's so foul and just bad that you don't want to report about it? That's my question. Why don't you want to break that news? So on Friday, him, Jay William, who I also admire, I also salute him when it comes to basketball, the media of basketball, because he's really into it. Just in sports in general, he's really tapped in to it. He used to play in the NBA. If y'all don't know who Jay Williams is, Duke point guard. Him and Stephen A. was talking about it. And once again, Stephen A. was dropping breadcrumbs on this matter.
See, we gotta be big. We gotta be adults here. So, reportedly, 2 adults had a consensual relationship, and that relationship violated organizational policy. I've heard more. You heard more. We ain't going there. We don't know. But what we can say is 2 grown adults had a consensual relationship, but because it was within the organization, it violated organizational policy. What exactly do you need to get out in front of?
If that's the case, then that's wrong.
That's what was put out. So what I'm saying, that's what was put out.
Wrong.
My point is, that's all. So unless you're telling us there was criminal activity involved and a lawsuit was pending, the point is 2 consensual adults had a consensual relationship that was against organizational policy.
So once again, Stephen A. is dropping these breadcrumbs. He even said that Jay Williams knows. He knows information. Jay knows information. But the one thing that they keep emphasizing is that it was consensual between these two. Now, I don't know if, that word has changed throughout the course of time, but consensual means that both parties agreed to this matter. Both parties basically said, yes, this is something that we both agreed that we were going to do, right? Right. Now, they keep saying, they kept saying it, they kept emphasizing it, and then when the news first reported, Twitter reporters were fully blasting and putting one female on Front Street. I'm not going to reveal her name. If you even just do a Twitter search for Ime Udoka, you're going to see the original person that they were saying it was. And so what was happening was Twitter reporters were saying this, were reporting this, and then Twitter was attacking her because it's against Nia Long. So they're going to this girl, they're going to her Twitter, they're finding all her information. They're just attacking. And Marcus Spears of The Athletic came out and said and tweeted, that is not the woman who is involved in this scandal. Please stop attacking this woman. So they had a press conference. Boston had its press conference where they were discussing the matter because at the end of the day, Ime Udoka, they did announce Thursday that Ime Udoka was suspended for the whole year. And during the press conference, the president of basketball operations, Brad Stevens, who used to coach for the Celtics, and the co-CEO, Wick Grossbeck, were talking about all the events that were happening. And few things that they said was they did state that Ime is suspended for the whole year, and then at the end of June, they will reevaluate and see if any further disciplinary action needs to take place, or if they're going to keep him, or they're going to let him, if they're going to keep him, or they're going to let him go. This is what they said they were going to do during this press conference. They also, Brad Stevenson, addressed the subject matter of how people on Twitter were attacking women from the Celtics organization who had nothing to do with this. And he felt that that was bullying. He felt like it was bullshit. He felt like they needed to stop this. But then they asked, was the person that Ime had this relationship with, is she getting punished? And the CEO said, no. Ime's the only one being punished. What I'm going to do for y'all now, because I haven't done this in a while. If you notice, in the past few episodes or so in the meantime, I haven't really engaged with the audience as far as bringing sound bites and bringing clips on to the scene. So that's what I've been doing. That's what this episode is going to be forward with. You're going to get a whole bunch of sound bites. So this soundbite is Stephen A. Smith's reaction to the press conference itself.
Wick, the owner, Wick Grousberg, I like him. I've known him for years. Constantly running across him, made in many Celtics events. Been very fond of him. Incredibly disappointed today. Ime Udoka cannot be defended. His actions were egregious, irresponsible to be in the leadership position that he is in. I'm not here to make any excuses or any apologies for his behavior. It is inexcusable. It's a fireable offense as far as I'm concerned. But it doesn't negate what the Celtics are doing here. According to your reports, Woj, and what we have been talking about over the last couple of days, this was a consensual relationship. Was Ime Udoka involved with himself? The answer to that question is no. Two consenting adults engaged in this act or these actions that clearly were in violation of the Boston Celtics policy.
Both parties were in violation of the Boston Celtics policy. So all this is being said, Stephen A. Smith had more to say, and he had something else to say that a lot of people are wondering, and Stephen A. Smith just happened to be the one that decided to bring it up.
And I'm going to say this again. It said in the numerous news reports, it was a consensual relationship that violated organizational policy. So only he is in violation of the company policy. The woman who elected to have a consensual relationship with him is not in violation. He gets to get mentioned and put on Front Street. We don't know who she is. What about the other women within the Celtics organization who have been victimized because wrong assumptions have been made by their involvement? If you knew exactly who it was, that would alleviate the concerns of all the other women who have had their names paraded out into the streets. What about them?
What about them? I mean, if you do your research and see the first woman told you she was getting attacked, but you're not going to put on front, you're not going to put this woman's name or this who this woman is out there. There's a lot of things that come to mind when I think of this. I think of the fact of, okay, could this be racially a racial motivated thing? I know a lot of people are going to look like, oh my God, here we go with this racist shit again. But let's be honest. Let's be real with one another, you know? And that's something that me and my cousins was having in the group chat. You know, me and my cousin Russ both said the same thing. We feel those of, hey, this might be a white woman that this situation involved with. You know, this situation is involving, you know, and, you know, through reports that are somewhat coming out, but not fully. We haven't fully gotten the complete story from no other reporter, but we're just hearing rumbles that it was a married woman who happened to be married to someone within the Boston Celtics organization. And that's why they're keeping it kind of tucked, like they're not saying anything. And when Stephen A. was saying this, it made me think of another incident that Stephen A. Smith did, or another incident that Stephen A. Smith had, and it sparked a female from that company to go at Stephen A. Smith. And that, if you remember the Ray Rice incident, and everybody was attacking Ray Rice. And I even spoke about this numerous times when I speak about Stephen A. Smith and why I think the sudden change happened with him. If you think back to when he was talking about the Ray Rice situation, Stephen A. Smith happened to say one thing. And all it took for him was for him to say this one thing. And he said, what about the woman? What if the woman did something that provoked Ray Rice to hit? He didn't condone it, but he said, what if she did something that caused him to do it? I've had this conversation numerous times on this podcast. My real model is the one that told me this story. He told me the story about how because he used to work with domestic violence victims and things like that. And he brought up a scenario with us in my class. And he said, he sat down, he had a group of men, and one of the men had hit his girlfriend and broke her eye socket, broke all this in her face, broke it off. Like not off, but broke it. One hit. And he asked the class, why do you think he did that? And everybody's yelling, steroids, alcohol, drugs, whatever. And he kept saying, no. And then one of the students in the front row happened to say, what if she was abusing him? And he said, say that again? And then he happened to say, she was abusing him. And he was allowing it to happen because he knew he couldn't put his hands on her, but he can only take but so much. And then one day he couldn't take anymore. And that's what happened. Not saying, and I'm not jumping on the side of Ray Rice, what he did. What he did was fucked up, and I'm glad that Ray Rice got the punishment that he got, okay? I'm against domestic violence across the board, but especially when it comes to women. But when Stephen A. said that, and Stephen A. said, well, what if she was the one? What if this? And he said that ESPN's darling at the time, Michelle Beto, who is no longer with them, went at Stephen A. Smith. And with her going at Stephen A. Smith got suspended. Stephen A. Smith had to go on national TV and issue a public apology, all that stuff. Now we have Malika Andrews. And Malika Andrews came on to the show and she let Stephen A. Smith have it in more ways than one. If you don't believe me, listen to what she had to say.
Well, Molly, thank you. If I could first start with this. Stephen A., with all due respect, this is not about pointing the finger. Stop. What became apparent to me in this press conference is that we do not have all of the information here. And it was frustrating to me that the Celtics declined to elaborate or to give more specifics about what exactly the rule breaking was that led us to this point. They could have owned that responsibility in this press conference. I understand that there were legal parameters that they had to operate within for everybody involved, and I appreciate the fact that they brought in outside counsel and did a thorough organization, and I think that that is something that was clearly necessary in this situation. But the fact that it was able to go on all day, the fact that we are sitting here debating whether somebody else should have been suspended or not, we are not here, Stephen A., to further blame women. That is not why we are here.
So as you heard, she was not with Stephen A. Smith's shit. She wasn't with it. And this goes into my belief, and it's something that I've always talked about. I've always talked about people holding conversations and holding debates or arguments, and they speak from a side of emotion. And they're not rational with their thoughts. They're not rational with their approach to the conversation. And you can tell that Malika Andrews is taking this seriously. But all women have been taking this seriously because, they feel as if, we don't need to attack the women. Because what she probably did is she probably seen the attacks that this woman, the original person who they claim was the one, was getting. And then she probably started seeing more attacks going towards other people, other women in the organization. And she probably was just fed up with it because she's like, we're not about to do this. What he did was wrong. But on the other hand, on the other flip side, she's at fault too. It takes two. Now, There's more that gets into this because trust me, I have more clips to come. But you can't go on to this show. You can't go on to Stephen A. Smith's show and not think that he's going to have something to say about this.
First of all, let me be very clear. I don't appreciate where you're going with that. I'm not blaming anybody but Ime Udoka. He deserves, the fact of the matter is, I've said he deserved to be fired if they were going to fire him. If you're not going to fire him, then don't fire him. My issue is all of this being publicized. The point that I'm trying to make is just like you're not mentioning. Excuse me. I listened to you. You're the one telling me to stop on my show. It ain't happening. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I've already said he deserves to be fired or he deserves to be there and handle it internally and privately. If you're not going to handle it privately, if you're going to publicize it in that fashion, then obviously it provokes everybody wanting to know, okay, well, who are the parties involved? When you have Amina Smith in Boston and other women pointing out the fact that there were women who were wrongly implicated in all of this, it's a disservice to them. I didn't come out with the report about a consensual relationship. I didn't come out with the report ahead of time leaking that they were going to suspend him for the year. They did that. And my point is, considering how pervasive this kind of stuff has existed in professional sports for many years, my whole point is that, make sure that you handle it in the same fashion it has always been handled. You could have fired him, and then we could have speculated till the cows come home, but he's gone. But to keep him there, keep him employed, but in the same breath, suspend him for a year, then also that year is indefinite. That is the issue that I have. Nobody's trying to protect Ime Udoka, and certainly nobody is trying to protect, is to excoriate the women involved or anything like that. I'm talking about how things of this matter are usually handled from an HR perspective, from an organizational perspective. That is not consistent with what we have seen throughout the years. That is the only point that I was trying to make. I'm not trying to attack anybody. And if anybody deserves to be attacked, it's Ime Udoka for putting himself in this position. I've made that very clear. I'm just talking about you got owners and everybody else. They know the kind of stuff that's going on. You didn't say anything about anybody else. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about them. They didn't say anything about everybody else all the other times this stuff has happened. But now when it comes to him, it's all over the place. That is my issue. That is my only issue.
I appreciate that clarification. And I think that getting back to Molly's initial question, that is what stood out to me from the press conference.
So you heard the exchange between the two. But that wasn't it. That wasn't it, because she had some more exchanging words with another particular person. A Boston, I don't want to call him a Boston hero because he's not. He was a part of the Boston Celtics championship team, and that will be one Kendrick Perkins. And Kendrick Perkins works with ESPN. He works with NBA. It used to be The Jump, now I believe is NBA Today. And they spoke about this matter too. And Perk had his take. And this is what Perk had to say in regards to this matter. And Malika had this to say as well.
Accountability goes to the other people that played a part in that as well. Let me tell you another thing I didn't like about my good friend Wick Grossbeck and Brad Stevens in this press conference when they asked, is anybody else going to be punished? And they said no. And my whole thing is this, right? These are some of the facts that have been out. These are some facts that I know that, you know, this relationship, one of these relationships that was had with Ime Udoka and one of these women, it was consensual, meaning that this woman actually played a part in it too. So my thing is, yes, Ime Udoka was wrong. We get that. His punishment, he deserved that, and whatever else follows, I hate it for him, but he put himself in this position. But why are the other people getting left off the hook?
Well,
that's the problem that I have right now. Everybody got to be held accountable.
I think that we need to circle back to what Shanae said, is that there was a investigation that was conducted by an independent law firm here. And I think that transparency is what will rule the day here. And so without having all of the information, it is unfair and irresponsible of us to go and to speculate on that, because what we have to...
Well, I'm not speculating.
Sure.
I have the information. I'm not speculating.
But what we have to go with here is the fact that an independent law firm came in, did this investigation, and the facts that they were presented, they came to the conclusion that Ime Udoka violated a policy that warranted a 1-year suspension. And I share your frustration with the lack of transparency, while understanding that there is some things that they need to, from a legal perspective, keep private. But knowing all of that, understanding all of that, we have to come to the conclusion that whatever rule, the conduct that was broken on one side, it is not the same on the other side. I thank you for your perspective.
So we have another person. This is 3 people right now that I have on record stating, well, 2 people who have said that they have information. They know what really happened. And then we had Stephen A. Smith tell Jay Williams, you know it too. So technically 3 people on this episode that I've discussed so far have come out and have admitted that they know what really happened. There's other people. Joe Budden has came out and said he knows what happened. So all these people know the truth of what happened, but no one wants to come out to admit or come out to say what really happened. That's a great podcast too. Andrew Jenkins, you need to come out with another new season. I missed that goddamn show. This would be perfect for that show. What really happened with Ime Udoka? If you ever come back, Andrew Jenkins, and if you ever see this video, I would love for you to cover this story, since everybody else is kind of like, excuse, I know I cuss a lot, but I don't really say this word enough. A lot. They pussyfooting, okay? So, if you ever come back, Ime Udoka, what really happened? Okay, back to regular schedule program. So, you're hearing this, and I can understand where she's getting, like I said, where Malika Andrews getting her frustration from, because she's looking at it like, hey, you know, we need to not go after this. We need to not go after the woman. But if it is consensual, and if it is this, then both parties do need to actually be held responsible. Because if it is true that both these people consensually decided to have this intimate relationship, why is it that only one person is being punished? That's the question that rises with a lot of people. That's why Stephen A. Smith keeps bringing up the other person. Because the other person, in the view of public opinion, is not a victim. The only technically victim here is Nia Long, because she got cheated on. But we're going to get into that later. But why is it that he's the one that is getting his name dragged in the mud? Why is he the one that is at the risk of losing his job? They own his rights as a coach. So if they did let him go, or if they were to let him go, they couldn't. Because they know Ime Udoka took the Celtics, first-year coach, took them to the finals. Okay? He's a phenomenal coach under Greg Popovich, who is the greatest basketball NBA coach of all times. And this man did his thing. I hate the Celtics, but I will admit Ime Udoka did his thing as their coach. But you don't want to give him up because you know if you give him up, he's going to go to another team. So you keep him, but you suspend him and you dock his pay. So he's not even going to get his full amount that he was supposed to be given to him. Okay? Like Stephen A. Smith said, if he's in violation, and if you heard what Stephen A. Smith said, it's foul, it's egregious, it's irresponsible. He should, everything he did should warrant him to be fired. But y'all don't fire him, y'all suspend him, y'all still keeping his rights. So, I'm still trying to figure out the whole why is it consensual, but yet only one person is being punished. I'm still trying to figure that out. Hopefully by the end of this week, hopefully by, within the next 2-3 weeks, we will find out more details. I said this to my cousins. Deadspin need to do this. Deadspin needs to take this story because we all know if you don't follow Deadspin, if you don't know who Deadspin is, Deadspin will get to the story and they will bring it all out. Stephen A. Smith said that the Boston Celtics leaked this information, so they know what's up. So I want to talk about accountability. Since Kendrick Perkins talked about it. Matt Barnes, one of my favorite people in the podcast media world now, has basically chimed in. And he chimed in the day of the incident, the day it was reported. And he double backed because let's just listen to what he had to say.
Normally I'd be chopping it up on ESPN with you guys about this, but I'm off until next week. But I definitely want to touch on this Ime Udoka situation. Just saw a year suspension was just handed down by the team for an inappropriate, consensual, sexual situation with a female that worked in the organization. I've been in the league played in the league for a long time. Anyone who played in the league could tell you this is a very common situation. This is not new news for people who've been in the league or even around organizations. I've seen it from owners to executives to coaches to players to trainers to therapists to dancers to PR ladies. Like, this is not uncommon. And to just bring some context to it, the NBA just suspended Sarver for all the shit he did, and he got a year too. So you're trying to tell me what Robert Sarver did and Udoka did are even on the same level, even in the same book, yet they warranted the same amount of time? This is a bad look, man. The Celtics, whoever made this decision, it was a terrible decision. You want to suspend a man 15, 20, 25 games, but a whole season for a consensual situation that not only happens in the NBA, but happens in every single workplace. This was a terrible call, man. Y'all let me know what you think down below. So last night I spoke on this Ime Udoka situation without having all the facts. And I think as a part of the media, often the media speaks to something, and when they're wrong, they won't come out and say it. And since I'm a part of the media now, and I try not to be like everyone else, I try to, report and talk with facts and honesty. And I clearly have to say last night, without knowing all the facts, I spoke on Ime Udoka's defense. And after finding out the facts after I spoke, I erased what I posted because this situation in Boston is deep, it's messy, it's 100 times uglier than any of us thought. And that's why I erased what I said. Some things happened that I can't condone, I can't back. And It's not my place to tell you what happened. If it ends up coming out, it ends up coming out. But that was the reason why I erased in my post last night, because after I posted it, I got a call from someone who had all the details, and the shit is deep. So, man, praying for everybody involved. Hope everyone gets through this. And I saw a lot of blogs picked up what I said, even though it was only on my page for like 2 minutes. So hopefully they pick this up too, for me being wrong and jumping out there without the facts. So that's where I'm gonna leave it. God bless, and I hope everyone has a good weekend.
So as you see, or as you heard, Matt Barnes came out, first part, came out, basically said, yo, how are you giving him the same punishment y'all giving Sarver, the Phoenix owner, or used to be owner, who's on the verge of selling his team now, and Phoenix Mercury, but you give him the same punishment that you're giving Ime. But then you notice that when he posted that video, and you heard him, he said, I posted that video, and the minute I posted, I had a call from someone who knows what's going on, and it's darker than what we think. It is darker than what we think. And I'm not going to get into the speculation or the rumors of what they are assuming or what they're saying. I seen the thing on TikTok where someone kind of talked about it. And if that's the case, we definitely gonna circle back to this conversation. But this is why I mess with Matt Barnes, because Matt Barnes he's a real one, and he owns up to his mistakes. He owns up to his fuck ups, and he will say, yo, I messed up. I was wrong at this. So when we look at the grand scheme of things, and we look at the grand scheme of these pictures and this whole thing, we look at who is to be at fault for this. And there's one person that I feel is at fault. And that, my friends, is Adrian Wojnarowski. And the reason I say Woj is at fault for this is because Woj is one that came out and reported this. Now, I have taken journalism classes. I know a few journalism majors. I know a few people who are in the field of that. I mean, I'm in media, so obviously you're in media. It's some form of journalism in whatever you're doing, especially if you're a podcaster. I live by this rule of thumb. Don Tony, one of my favorite wrestling podcasters, says it best. I don't want to be first. I want to be right. And what's happening is we're having reporters that just want to drop the news first instead of gathering all the information. If so many people know this story and know the depths that it goes to, why is it that Adrian Wojnarowski did not just say details will be coming out and just say something like that? Say something that details will be coming out, or just say we cannot confirm nor deny whatever we are hearing, but it's not looking good, or whatever the case may be. Because like I said, you heard Stephen A. Smith say he knows about it. You heard Perk say that he knows about it. You heard Matt Barnes say that he knows about it. But then there is somebody who I believe had the best response, or the best reaction, or the best, however you want to say it, to this drama. And that is, from the Dan Le Batard show with Stu Gatz. And this is what his take on the matter was.
Yeah, so first, the speculation is kind of gross. I see people trying to sleuth who the mystery person that he might have had the inappropriate relationship with is, and just putting people's pictures and names out there without any confirmation. Although, well, this is the only woman who does this or that, or that's gross, and it's ridiculous, and I think people need to cut that shit out, because, like, first of all, whoever the person actually is, I'm sure they're embarrassed enough. But second of all, you're throwing names of people that may not even be involved and putting them in a hot spot like that. So that's one. Speculation is gross. Second of all, I think what Stephen A. is saying about, this happens all the time. I think there's a couple things at play here. Number one, we had a situation in Minnesota about a year and some change ago where the president of basketball operations there, Gerson Rosas, was let go because of an inappropriate inter-office relationship that he had. And that came to light because I believe there was documentation of them being out and about. I was talking to a buddy of mine who works for another team, and he said for the last few years, it's been standard practice in a lot of these NBA teams for you to sign a code of conduct document that is adjacent to your contract. And the code of conduct in there, it states you are not allowed to have inter-office relationships if you are not single, if you or the other party is not single. That didn't exist when I worked in the NBA. Like, there was no policing of that. Now, apparently, in some instances, I don't know if the Celtics are one of them, it says, you can't have an affair in the office. If you have an affair, make sure it's with someone not around here. So there's things there that in writing, allegedly, that prevent against these things or protect against these things. And we already know of at least one example of someone who had that happen to them and had comeuppance come as a result.
I think that was probably the best reaction to this. For those that don't know, he used to be an insider for the NBA. Very hands-on, very knowledgeable of the game, not just knowledgeable of the game, but knows a lot of people. As you heard him say, like, he talked to someone that worked within the Minnesota Timberwolves and talked about that issue. Whatever it is that's going on, as far as his personal life, we really don't need to be tackling it. We don't need to be talking about it, but we are, because it's been brought to Front Street. It's been brought here. It's now at our table. It's at our disposal. And now we're just having conversation about it. I'm sitting here talking about it right now. Okay. But I'm trying to just focus on the news part of it, the sports part of it. But there is the biggest part that everyone seems to be talking about, and that's the relationship part of it. And I'm going to save my relationship part of it for another time, okay? Because like I said, 2 episodes, maybe a third one. But depending on how big this issue is, it might go we might just have a few episodes covering this. But I will say this, for everyone that is upset that it's Nia Long, this and the third, I leave you guys with this. Anyone can get cheated on. Anyone can get cheated on. Beyonce got cheated on. Rihanna got cheated on. I look at Kevin Hart's wife and Nico because I feel she is beautiful. She got cheated on. J-Lo got cheated on. It happens. Why is it such an uproar? Because it's Nia Long. Till next time.